Okay, so today's class is gonna be about built-in functions. I suggest you guys pay attention for this one because there's gonna be a lot of practice problems. So, all right, let's get started. So, what are built-in functions? Python comes with several built-in functions that are ready to use, making mathematical operations easier without needing to write extra code. Most common ones are max, min, sum. So built-in functions are basically functions that come pre-built in Python. So let's say if you want to add something, instead of saying 2 plus 2, you could just use the max function and then put the two numbers you want to be added. Or if there's a min function, if you want to find like the lowest number out of a list, you could input the list into the min function and then it'll give you the minimum number from the list. So these are just things that make your code simpler and it saves you time because you don't have to write a code that finds a minimum number. So these are pretty helpful. So the first built-in function we're going to be looking at is max. So as you can guess by the name, the max function returns the largest item in a list or among or more arguments. So this should be pretty straightforward. You basically just use the max function and then you give it a list or a set of numbers. It could be two or it could be any number, it doesn't matter. And the function will return the maximum number out of all of the numbers that you provided. So the syntax for this would be max and iterable, so like a list like this. Or you could just give it um, arguments, so 1, 2, 3, like this. So either of these work. So in this one, the max function will return 3, and in this one, it will return 5 because that's the highest value. So an example here is you make a list. So numbers equals, and then you have 4, 7, 2, 8, 5. And then what you do is say print max and then numbers. So you're inputting this list in. So if you were to run this part of the program, it'll print out 8 because as you can see, that's the maximum number out of the list. Or you could use arguments. So in this case, you have print max and then you have 10, 20, and 15. So if you actually just run this part of the program, it'll output 20 because that's the maximum number out of these three. So max really works with any number, any kind of numbers. So yeah, that's pretty helpful. So I'll give you guys 5 minutes to do this problem. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Let me know if you guys have any questions.
Can I see four numbers like okay, do five number because I joined late. Excuse me.
Yeah.
There is a one number. Numbers equals.
Sorry.
There is no four numbers line.
Yeah.
There is a first line. Numbers is equal to.
Yeah.
Then bracket. Yeah, but in my computer there is no like this bracket.
Um, there should be check next to your P to like it should be like the key to the right of your P on your keyboard.
Okay.
If you hit that, it might like produce a curly bracket. In order to get the square bracket, you hold down the shift key and then press those.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's enough time. Have you guys been able to solve this, or are there any questions about this? Okay, I'm gonna take that as you guys are able to solve it, or don't have any questions about it. Okay, so let's go over the solution real quick. So first, you create a list like this, so numbers equals 47, 67, 23, so on, just like it said over here. And then what you do is you just print, and then in brackets, then max, and then you put the list in, so numbers in this case, and then run that program. So if you run this program, your output will be 91 because that is the highest number in this list. So this was pretty straightforward. Moving on, so the min function. So as you can guess by the name, it's pretty similar to the max function, except it returns the minimum value from a list. So the syntaxes are pretty similar to the max one. So sorry. So min, and then you have an iterable list. So like min and then one, two, three, whatever. Or you could just say min and then you have arguments. So single numbers. Either one works. So yeah, this is pretty similar to the max. You guys shouldn't have a problem with this. So an example here is you have a list numbers and then you have 4, 7, 2, 8, 5 in it. And then if you use the min function and input the list numbers in it, you'll get an output of 2 because out of all these numbers, 2 is the smallest. And then again with arguments, you could say min 20, 10, 15, whatever, and then it will output 10 because that is the smallest number in this set of arguments. So min is pretty similar to max, and if you guys understand max, min should be easy as well. So let's do a problem real quick. I'll give you 5 minutes for this as well. Yeah. So again, you write a program similar to the max one, except this time you have a list temperatures and you have these numbers in it. So you have to write a program that returns the smallest number from these numbers. So I'll give you guys 5 minutes for that, and let me know if you guys have any questions. Yeah, basically you just replace max with min, but this time the list is different, so you'd have to change the list as well.
Can you do example slide? And seven number. Thank you.
Okay, were you guys able to solve it, or does anyone have any questions, or does anyone need more time? Okay, I'm gonna assume you guys are able to solve it. So let's go over the solutions real quick. So similar to the max function, first you'll make a list temperatures and then input all of these numbers in there. So after you've done that, you just say print min and then say temperature, put the list temperatures in it. And then the output of this would be -10 because it is a negative value. So past negatives, -10 would be the smallest value. So this was pretty straightforward as well, similar, very similar to the max function. So I hope you guys aren't confused with this. If you guys are, feel free to ask me questions or whatever. But moving on, we're going to be moving on to the sum function. So similar to the min and max, the name should give you an idea of what it does. So the sum function just adds up all the items in an iterable like a list or a tuple. So this is pretty basic as well. So the syntax for this would be sum and then a list like an iterable. So sum and then 1, 2, 3, whatever. Or you have a sum and then an iterable and then a start value. So example sum 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10. So what this does is it adds it adds 10 to the total. So you have the list here, and then you have whatever the sum is. So in this case, it would be 6, and then it adds 10 to that. So it'd be output for this would be 16. So a quick example of this would be a list, and then you say sum numbers, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and then it's gonna print out the sum of all these numbers. So in this case, it's 15. And then the same with the second this part of it that we saw. So if you have print sum and the numbers, so you know the output of this is 15. So like the sum of this is 15, and then it adds 10 to that. So then the output of this would be 25, as you could guess. So 15 plus 10 is 25. So this could be a little confusing for anyone. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, or you guys could try this practice problem. So this is a pretty straightforward practice problem. You're calculating the sum in a list called distance, and these are the values in the distance, and you just use the sum function to calculate the sum. So I'll give you 5 minutes for this as well. Let me know if you guys have any questions or any concerns or anything. You didn't understand it, okay. So what this part does, I'm gonna assume you didn't understand this part. So what this part does is you have a list. So you have a list, let's say 1, 2, 3 in this case, and then you have a second value. Just consider, ignore the start and just consider as a second value that you're adding to the sum of this list. So like over here, you have sum and then you have numbers, comma 10. So what this is going to do is first, it's going to add all the numbers in this list. So this will add up to 15. And then it's going to add 10 on top of that to make it 25. So as you can see, 15 plus 10, 25. So just consider the second part as like a second value that you're adding to the sum or the list. Yeah, that should answer your question. If you still don't understand it, let me know. I'll try to do a better job explaining it. But for now, we'll work on this practice problem.
It's done.
Okay, so good job on that. Let's go on the solutions real quick if anyone isn't sure about it. So the solution for this is pretty straightforward. You create a list called distances, and then you input these numbers in the list, and you just hit print and then sum of distances. So in this case, the output should be 51. That's the sum of all these numbers. So this should have been pretty straightforward. If you didn't understand it, let me know and I'll explain it again. But moving on, now we have ABS. Now, you guys might not know what this means, but ABS basically means the absolute value. So the ABS function returns the absolute value of a number which is its distance from zero without considering its sign. So in simple words, what this means is basically absolute value in math is basically when you put in a negative number, it'll return its positive value. So if you say -1, and if you consider its absolute value is positive. So it always ignores the sign and it only returns a positive. So the syntax for this is pretty simple. So ABS and then whatever number you want to put in. So example, ABS -5. So if you were to run this program, the output would be 5 because it's ignoring the negative sign. So an example for this would be ABS negative 10. So it would print out 10 because it ignores the negative sign. But if you put in a positive number, it'll return the exact same number back because it's already that is its absolute value. So over here, if you have AB as 7, it's going to output 7 because it is already a positive number, so that is its absolute value. So this is pretty straightforward. It might be a new concept for some of you guys, but it shouldn't be too hard. So we're gonna move on to a practice problem. Now this one is a little tricky, but I think you guys could solve this. I'll give you guys a little more time for this if you guys need. So what are you gonna do is write a program that computes the absolute value of the difference between the two numbers using absolute value. So what you're gonna do is first find the difference of these two numbers and then print it out using absolute value function. So I think you guys could solve this. If you guys have any questions about it, let me know. I'll give you guys like a lot 7 minutes, so you guys will get 2 minutes longer to solve this. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions.
Excuse me.
Yeah, do you have a question?
I joined both one. It's there is nothing output.
Oh, because you need to find the difference first, and then because right now you're just printing out the absolute value of both.
It's coming like this.
Um, I don't think you've set your VS Code properly, because this shouldn't be a problem. So maybe try looking at our setting up video again and try setting it up again, because you should there shouldn't be a problem if you set it up properly.
Okay.
So yeah.
It's done.
Okay, I'll just wait for a few more minutes for everyone else. Okay, I'll be going over the solutions, but before that, does anyone have any questions or need more time? Okay, well, let's go with the solution. So what you're gonna do over here is you're gonna make two variables, so A and B. So A is negative 25, B is 10. And what you're gonna do is make a new variable called difference and make it equal to the absolute value of A minus B, because difference is subtracting, so you're subtracting B from A. So then if you do this, you're gonna get, so this is gonna be negative 25 minus 10. So because they're both negative, the answer would be negative 35. But then since it's an absolute value, the negative sign is ignored and it becomes 35. So then when you print the difference, you're gonna get 35. So this, I hope you guys are able to solve it. It was a little tricky, but I believe you guys should be able to solve this by now. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about this, let me know. If not, we'll move on to the next function. So the next function is the round function. So it rounds a number to a given precision of decimal digits. So in math, a lot of times you're gonna have decimal numbers, and a useful trick you do to write it is you round the numbers. So if you have, let's say 1.5, you round it up to 2. So that's what basically rounding is, and this function just does that for you. So the syntax for this is you just round and then the number, example round 3.14159. And I believe if you don't give it the number of digits, the default is one decimal place. So this would be 3.1. Or you could do is you say round, and then you give it the number of digits. So then this is smarter, and I recommend you do this more often than this. So what this does is you put the round function and you put the number you want to round. So in this case, you have the value of pi, and then you say 2. What this does is it tells you the number of digits you want it to be rounded to. So if you say 2 over here, it's going to round to 2 decimal places, so this will be 2.14. So this is pretty simple. You guys should be able to solve it. So over here, if you say round and 3.141, so it rounds off to the to no decimal places. So if you just say 3.141 and then you don't give it the number of digits, it's just the output is going to be 3. But if it was 3.5, then the output would be 4. So so how basic rounding works is if the number after the decimal point, if it's 5 or above, it rounds up. But if it's less than 5, it rounds down. So in this case, since 1 is less than 5, it rounds down to 3. But if it's 3.5 or anything above 5, it round up to 4. And the second example is you have again round the value of pi, and then this time you give it the number of digits. So if you say 2 here, so it's going to round to 2 decimal places. So it's going to be 3.14 because after 4, the number is 1 over here. So it's going to round down. But if it was like 3.145, then it would have been the answer would have been 3.15. So again, that's basic rounding. You guys should know this. And yeah. So this function is pretty simple to use, so we wouldn't have a practice problem for this, but I'd suggest you guys practice a bit with getting used to rounding if you don't know what it is already. So moving on, we have the POV function. So POV basically is the power function. So it returns the value of a number raised to a power. So then it's a shortcut for x asterisk asterisk y. So you don't really need to know this. This might seem confusing for you at the moment, so just ignore that for now. So the syntax for this is you say the power function, and then the first argument you give it is the base, and then the second argument is the exponent. So let's say you say example power 2 comma 3. So what this is going to return is it's going to say 2 raised to the power 3. So it's going to, if you were to run this, it'll print 8. So then this is pretty helpful if you're doing complex math in your program. So it's good to know this function. A second way to write it is power, base, exponent, and mod. So what mod is basically modulus. So it gives you the, I have a note here, it says mod gives you the remainder of a division expression. So you guys should know this by now, but if you guys forgot, mod is basically gives you the remainder. So over here you have power 235. So what this is going to do is going to say power and then 2 raised to the power 3, so 8, and then the modulus 5. So basically it's going to say 8 divided by 5, and whatever the remainder you get, it print that out. So in this case, the remainder would be 3 that you get. So let's do a quick example of this. So as you can see, you have print power 2 comma 3. So this is going to say 2 raised to the power 3, so it's 8. And then the second case, which is the modulus one, is 2, 3, and then 5. So 2 raised to the power 3 and then modulus 5. So in this case, the output would be 3 because 8 modulus 5 is 3. So this is a little complicated, especially the modulus part. So let me know if you guys have any questions, and I have a practice problem here for you guys. So
Can you
I'll
give
give,
examples like then problem?
sorry, do you want to look at
Can
this
you do
again?
first example slide? Yep, and then
So do you want me to explain this again, or do you just want to take a look at it?
no, I just explain.
Explain, okay. So the first part, I assume you get it. So it's just 2 raised to the power 3. So you just do 2 multiplied by itself 3 times, which would give you 8. But then the second part, it says, so this is the base, then this is the exponent, so 2 raised to the power 3 again. But this time we're adding this 5. So what this 5 does is it's a modulus expression. So what it's going to do is basically it's going to say 2 raised to the power 3, which is 8, as you guys know from this one. And then it's going to divide that by 5 and then give the remainder. So if you say 2 raised to the power 3, which gives you 8, so what this 5, what it's going to do is the function is going to divide 8 by 5, and then whatever the remainder is, it's gonna print that. So as you can see, so it's gonna print out 3. So 8 divided by 5 is, so 5 goes in 8 once, and then what remains is 3. So it's gonna print out the number 3. I hope that helps you
I
understand that.
okay. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, good. So let's move on to the practice problem. So you have to use the power function to calculate 4 raised to the power 3. So this should be pretty simple. You're not doing any modulus or nothing. It's this first case. So I'll give you guys 5 minutes for this. So yeah, and let me know if you guys have any questions about it. Okay. So I hope you guys are able to solve it. It was pretty straightforward. I saw someone give the answer in the chat. Just next time, don't write the answer in the chat because other people might still be solving it. So just wait until we go to solutions. But yeah, you were correct. The answer is 64. So how you do this is you say print power and then 4 comma 3 and then it'll print out 64 because 4 raised to the power 3, which is like 4 multiplied by itself 3 times is 64. So good job on that. And we'll move on to a function called div mod. So this function, so the div mod function returns a tuple containing the quotient and the remainder when it's dividing two numbers. So what it does is basically when you say div mod a comma b, so these are like two arguments, it's gonna return the quotient and the remainder when you divide the two numbers. So if you say div mod 10 comma 3, it's gonna return the quotient, so it's gonna return 3 and then the remainder 1. So it's going to return both of them. So basically, yeah. So div mod in its name is like division and modulus. So modulus returns the remainder, division returns the quotient. So over here we have an example. So it says result equals div mod 2, 3. So the variable is result. And if you print result, you get the output 3, 1. So quotient is 3 and then the remainder is 1. So this should be pretty straightforward. Let me know if you guys have any questions about it. But if not, we're gonna move on because we are running out of time. So next we have the len function or the len function. So what it does is it returns the length of an iterable such as a list, string, or tuple. So len is short for length, and what it does is if you say length and an iterable like a list, like let's say len and then 1, 2, 3, it's going to return the length of this list or whatever you have or string. So in this case, if you run this, it return 3 because it has three values in it. So and that's the length of it. So we have an example here. So it's like print length and you have a list. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now if you were to run this, the output would be 5 because it has 5 numbers in it. You could similarly use the length function for strings as well. So if you guys remember what strings is basically multiple characters. So you store words as strings. So over here we have the string Python. So you always write strings with double bracket, double quotations, I mean. So if you say len Python and then you run this, it's going to output 6 because Python has 6 letters in it. So the length of it is 6. Yeah, that is it for today's lesson. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Otherwise, you guys can feel free to leave the class.
No, but you after the class you send a Gmail or slides presentation.
Yeah, after the class, we'll email you a link to to these slides and a recording as well.
Yeah, because in my computer there is a critical problem of Wi-Fi.
Okay. Yeah,
That's
no,
why I missed one or two slides.
you're okay. Don't worry about that. After the lesson, we'll send you a video recording of this class as well as the slides.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.